Bill Zeltman, the real estate guru. How many times have you gone on a listing appointment and you're sitting there, you're talking with the person, everything's going great, and then you get to the point and they say something like, let's put it on the market for $300,000, just see if anybody bites. I had this happen several years ago with a neighbor. I knew darn well the house was going to sell for $60,000, $70,000 less, I think, than when we started. But again, I caved. I didn't do what I knew was the right thing to do. I didn't do what was best with it, and ended up at the end having the listing expire. Somebody else came in and sold the house for the exact price I knew it was worth. It happens, and every realtor that's out there that's been around for a while probably can tell a very similar story. It's a shame, but it's true. So I want to give you some arsenal to go in when you're having these listing conversations, so make sure that it's not confrontational. Make sure that when you have this conversation, it's something that's done matter of fact and in a business-like way. And what I mean by that is like this. Listing a house, pricing a house, emotion has to come out of it. And it has to be the fact that this is just a scientific, mathematical equation. It's not a tricky number in the sky. And before I go back to that, I just want to have a conversation with you about that person that says, let me just throw it out there at that high, ridiculously high price, just to see, maybe somebody will bite. Well, here's some answers to that. First of all, let's say they do bite, and let's say they buy the house that's worth $250,000. They put an offer in for the full $300,000. Unless they're paying cash, and we'll talk about the cash buyer in a minute. Unless they're paying cash, that house has to appraise, or they have to come up with a down payment that covers the amount it doesn't appraise for. So let's give this example. They come in, $300,000, they sell $300,000. Person buys the house. Great. They're under contract. Says this house is worth $250,000. Okay, great. The house is worth $250,000. Wonderful. Now, you go back and say, and it's not wonderful, you go back and you say, Mr. Buyer, the house only appraised for $250,000, so that's what they're going to give you a mortgage for. Great. Is it? No, it's not great. $300,000, I have to come up with 50. That's at 100%. At that point, $300,000 house needs to come up with a minimum of $50,000. We haven't even spoken about closing costs, which are going to be even more on top of that. How many people out there are going to do that? The second thing is how many people, and this goes to the cash buyer as well, how many people out there are going to say to themselves, this thing only appraised for $250,000 and I'm paying $300,000 for it? Wait a minute, something's not right. Why should I be paying that much for the house? So the greater fool theory, and I'm going to pay more money for it, and especially now going in and throwing that cash buyer, if I have $300,000 cash, go out and meet somebody that's got that kind of money to throw around. They're not fools. They're not going to go pay $50,000 more than with cash than what a house is worth. They're going to know what the house is worth. The second part of that is that with the cash buyers, they want a discount. I'm paying cash. This is simple. I can close in 2 weeks. I can close whenever you want. Blah, blah, blah. And so they're going to say, the house is worth $250,000. I want to give you $225,000. And they're going to lowball you. No cash buyers sitting there. I got $300,000. Why not? The house is only worth $250,000, but I want it. I'm buying it. Doesn't happen. So you need to have a scientific, mathematical question. Very important. You only use houses that are closed in your conversation. Why closed? Because you know that's what they actually sold for. Because somebody down the street that has their house listed for $300,000, like we were saying in our example, very well may be the same thing as what we're talking about, which is the fact that they just think, hey, I'll throw it out there and whatever else. It's not a true comp. A true comp is only a property that is closed, hopefully within the last 6 months. If you have to go back further, go back further, but try to make it within the last 6 months and show those numbers. So if, in our example, a house sold for $240,000, $245,000, $250,000, and the house that you're selling now is in good condition, that puts you right at that $250,000 number, because you can see the prices have gone up a little bit right in the middle. You might just say to them too, let's list it for 250 or 255. You're probably going to close at 245, the median of that, and give yourself a little wiggle room of where you end up listing the house. And they might fight you and whatever, and they say, no, we're listing it for 258. You can live with that because you can negotiate down and get to the price where they're probably going to agree and everything's going to be good. But again, it's the science of, well, I want to sell mine for $300,000. Okay, sir, but you do understand that 3 houses exactly like yours in the last 6 months have sold for 240, 245, and 250. It's not realistic to think all of a sudden now yours is worth $300,000. And they may sit there and they may get upset, they may get this, that, whatever. But the fact is you put facts right in their face. The other thing I want to talk about, and if you don't have one of these, you can call me, I'll help you out with it, or find a brokerage that has it, is use an absorption rate calculator. Do you know what an absorption rate calculator is? An absorption rate calculator shows the number of properties that have sold in the last 6 months versus the number that are active. And this is a tough conversation to have, but it's a conversation that is well worth having because it can be really good, but it can be really a tough one too. So let's say that you have a house in the market, and in the last 6 months, 5 houses have sold. And right now on the market, there are 10 houses on the market. Well, what does that tell you? That tells you that supply is twice as great as demand. So how many months is that going to take for that house to go if priced correctly? The other thing about being priced correctly is if you want to sell this in any decent amount of time, you need to be one of the lowest priced houses in that market. Well, what if my house is nicer and I have these upgrades or this, that, whatever? Unfortunately, sir, it really doesn't matter because people will go in. They usually go for what the best deal is. Even if yours is really a lot nicer, if it's priced comparably, yours will go first. But if you're priced over that, chances are that people will go, they'll buy the one that's a little bit cheaper, and they'll say, well, when we have some money, we'll upgrade the kitchen the way we want to have it done, or we'll upgrade the bathroom, or we'll do the floors with the floors we want, as opposed to the upgrades that you may have. So an absorption rate calculator is a powerful tool that, again, in dollars and cents on paper right in front of the person shows them these are your current market conditions. You want to be in the top 20% of houses priced against the competition in order for it to sell in the amount of time that your absorption rate calculator will show, and it shows them scientifically what they need to list the house for. The key in the listing conversation when you're talking about pricing is to take emotion out of it and make it all about mathematics, dollars and cents, to what the market is actually showing, not to the person's emotions or what they need to get for the house. I need to get this for the house because I owe X on the house. I'm very sorry, I'd love to get you, or I need to walk away with X amount of dollars in my hand. I'm very sorry, but your house is only worth what your house is worth. And unfortunately, this is what it's worth right now. So it's important that if we're going to sell it and get this, get you out of here in the time that you say you want to be out of here, we need to price it correctly, and the correct price is, and put it in front of them. Another very powerful question to ask is, well, and what's more important to you? Getting the house sold or getting a price? And of course, they're going to try to answer both, and the answer can't be both because one has to supersede the other. If their answer is getting my price and I can wait to sell, this may not be a seller you want to deal with. And I would say to them, look, I pride myself in pricing houses correctly, and that every house that I list, because of the money and the effort and the time I'm going to put into market it, I want to make sure that everyone that I list sells. I could list your house for $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 over, but it's not going to sell, which is bad for my reputation as a top realtor in the marketplace. I do have somebody I can refer you to that will do it for that, but understand that if you do list your house at that particular price, unfortunately, looking at the science and being in this business for as long as I've been in this business, I know your house isn't going to sell in a decent amount of time. If you're okay with that and you can wait 18 months and hope the market goes up and hope that the inventory drops or the demand comes up in your neighborhood, again, I have somebody that will help you, but I'm not that person, because when I sell a house, I want to make sure that house sells, and I want to make sure that you get top dollar within reason in a reasonable amount of time for your house at the right price. not at a price where we're not going to be able to sell. Bill Zeltman, the real estate guru, talking more about listing conversations. Check us out again on the next Guru Dish.